Okay, so apparently my recording cut off. I only have 10-minute limit recordings. I may have to upgrade for this service. But anyway, EOC. Let's see. Okay, so number 4, linear regression. That means you can put this data table into your calculator under the stat edit and then do stat calculate and get your equation. So it says the graph of G was translated 10 units down to create the graph of H. Which statement comparing the graphs of G and H is true? So if this is your original equation and you move it down, that means you're going to do 8 minus 10, and that's going to give you a -2. So basically, you're going to take this value, you're going to subtract, and you're going to end up with this. Okay, so it says which is true. Well, it says the x-intercept of the graph is 10 units to the right. No, we didn't move it to the right, we moved it down. The graph is steeper, we didn't change slope, we only changed the y-intercept. The y-intercept of the graph of G is 10 units above the graph of H. Well, remember, we started with G and went to H. So although we moved it down, G is 10 units above H, because that's what we started with. So that is the answer. And then number 5, which equation in standard form of the line that passes through the point? So you start in point slope form because you have a point and you have slope. So you put your point here and here and your slope in there. Then you would have to solve for y, which you guys haven't had a lot of practice on in a while. So this would be solving for y, and this would be the process. And you should have gotten in standard form, you're not actually solving for y. We're putting x and y on one side and the constant on the other. So you're basically simplifying and rearranging. So it's a similar process to solving for y, but instead we're kind of just moving everything, all the variables to one side and the constant to the other. So you want to try to get to one of these, and this format gets us to this, and that's 36. Okay. So next I'm going to go over the notes for the day. So today we just have practice homework. So basically, you're supposed to go back and practice everything that we've done so far. So there's just a lot of practice problems reviewing what we've done so far. So I'm going to go over the first example, or the first 2 examples, and then I might go back and hit highlights from the other sections to review what we've done so far. So it says, use this function to answer the following questions. Well, you can graph it in your calculator and look at the data table and fill it out. You're going to want to find the points in the data table that give you that vertex. So you want to figure out where it's changing direction, and you want to have points on a couple points on both sides of the vertex. So I graphed these 5 points, and it says identify the following characteristics of the function. So after I graph the points in the calculator and I graph them on my graph, I can identify the following characteristics. So this right here, that's my vertex, because that's where things change direction. And remember, anything on either side of the vertex is going to have mirror image y values. So if you look, the y's are the same on both sides. So that is also a clue, because of the axis of symmetry going through the vertex. When you see y values repeat on either side of a point, that also clues you into that as the vertex. So the min is our vertex. Axis of symmetry just comes from the x value in our vertex. So axis of symmetry, I could draw the axis of symmetry through here, through the center, like that. Goes through the vertex. That is the axis of symmetry. It is always a vertical line, x equals -3. For this one, because that is our x value in the vertex. Axis of symmetry, and then our roots. So basically, wherever it intercepts the x-axis. So you look for your y zeros. So if we look for where y is 0, those will be our roots. That's where y is 0. Y-intercept, we don't actually see that on the graph, but you can look through the data table. Look through data table. And find where x is 0. And that will give you your value for the y-intercept. Domain is always all reals, and your range is based on the y value of your vertex. So you look at your vertex, you decide whether you have a max or a min, and that's how you determine your range. So you're taking the min and the fact that the y value in the vertex, the y value in the vertex is -1. And because it's the min, it's going to be everything greater than -1. Okay, second example, it says find the solutions and the vertex for the equation. Well, the solutions are your x-intercepts. So you're going to want to graph this in the calculator and look at the data table. You're looking for where the y is 0 in your data table. So where y equals 0 in the data table. And those will be your two solutions or x-intercepts. Your vertex, if you look at the data table, you can find the axis of symmetry by doing -b/2a. So you're going to know your x is equal to 1 for your vertex. So you're going to take that vertex from the axis of symmetry and look on your data table and figure out the y value. Okay, so those are first two examples in our practice today. I'm going to take a few minutes to just go back and hit highlights from our unit to help you. So you can rewatch this video as many times as you want to help you review for this. So let's see. Let's hit the highlights. See if I can do it before my 10 minutes runs out. I am not keeping track of the time. Okay, so make sure this is on Canvas. So if you did not write all this down, you might want to go back and do it. So this is kind of the highlights of everything we've done in this unit. Standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. Standard form is the one without the parentheses. And our shape for our quadratic is called a parabola. So remember, if you don't have this in your notes, this is like page 3 in your notes, the very first page after the cover. If you don't have this, you might want to write it down. So anatomy, axis of symmetry is that almost like mirror that cuts through the middle. It creates a mirror image on both sides. Vertex is the max or the min. Bummer, bell ring. People are going to come to my class. Let's see if I can blow through this real quick. Okay, so domain, always all reals. Range, y is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so I'm going to just do another video of the highlights later. We're going to stop now. You can find an additional highlights video on Canvas. There will be 3 videos.